In this video, I'm going to talk about and break down the story behind how a variety of bands got their name. The name of a band can make or break their success, and in a world where you can just stream from what seems like a near limitless amount of different bands, it is more important than ever that these names stand out from each other. This need to stand out can lead to some rather interesting inspirations for names. The Killers are an American band founded in Las Vegas in 2001. A huge inspiration for their music was bands coming out of Manchester in the decades prior, such as The Smiths, Oasis and Joy Division. All these bands were an inspiration for the Killers' sound, especially on their debut album. The name The Killers is no different and is also inspired from this same source. The name was chosen as it is featured as the name of the fictional band in the music video for the 2001 single Crystal by New Order. When it came to the Smiths having to pick a name for their band, they decided to look for the most ordinary and most common name that they could think of. Likely flicking through a phone book and seeing all the names, Morrissey decided on the Smiths, as being the most ordinary and generic. This was part of a push by the band, to stay away from what they thought the rest of the industry was doing, and by picking the name the Smiths, it helped them not be associated with, as Morrissey puts it, other bands with corny as hell metaphorical lyrics with 18-syllable names.
Why do we call ourselves the Smiths?
We call ourselves the Smiths because you decided we were called the Smiths.
And I decided because it was the most ordinary name. And I think it's time that the ordinary folk of the world showed their faces.
Some bands' names are chosen by a thing in their location around them. A good example of this would be the Leeds band the Kaiser Chiefs, who formed in 2000, originally using the name Parva. This originally comes from the name of a hamlet in East Yorkshire called Ruston Parva. Under this original name, they got a record deal, but were then dropped when Beggars Banquet Records closed their subsidiary, Manta Recordings. This left the band unsigned, struggling to get another record deal after being dropped. The band decided that they could do with a new name. As the band are fans of Leeds United Football Club, they looked at the first club that the then Leeds United captain Lucas Radebe had played for, and that's how they settled on the name Kaiser Chiefs. And not long after this name change, they eventually got signed again. Speaking of bands from Leeds, the band Alt J's name comes from how you would create the delta symbol on a keyboard, as to create the triangle that the band has now become synonymous with and used as a logo of sort. To create the symbol on a keyboard, you have to hold down both the Alt and J keys together, hence the name Alt J. Another band that has become synonymous with one of these Alt key symbols will be that of American band 21 Pilots, who use the Alt O key to create the /O symbol that features heavily in the band's marketing and identity. The band got their name from a play that lead singer Tyler Joseph was reading at the time. The play was All My Sons by American playwright Arthur Miller. The play tells a story of a man who kills himself after knowingly supplying faulty aeroplane parts during the Second World War, an act that then results in the death of 21 pilots. The band Portugal the Man was a side project for singer and guitarist John Gooley, but when his band Anatomy of a Ghost broke up, it became his full-time band, incorporating members from the previously mentioned Anatomy of a Ghost. The name Portugal the Man comes from the idea of David Bowie's bigger-than-life fame. They didn't want it to be named after one particular member of the band, however, so they felt that a country was more fitting. The first one that came to mind was Portugal. The man part of the name is meant to feel more personal and could represent any one of the band members. If it wasn't used for the band Portugal the Man, this name would have been given to the book that John Gooley would have written, covering the story of his father's adventures. Arcade Fire are a band formed in 2001 in Montreal, Canada. The name of the band was long rumoured to be about a real-life fire that happened in an arcade. The lead singer, Win Butler, when asked about this, answered, "It's not a rumour, it's based on a story that someone told me. It's not an actual event, but one that I took to be real. I would say that it's probably something that the kid made up, but at the time, I believed him." Sometimes a label will not be happy with the name you've chosen for your band. This is the case for Britpop band Blur, whose original name Seymour came from a book called Raise High the Roof Beam, Carpenters and Seymour, an introduction. The band eventually got signed by Food Records on the condition that they changed their name from Seymour, a name that the label disliked. The band was given a list of other names that they could pick from, and in the end they chose the name Blur from that list. Coldplay originally formed in the campus of the University College of London. At this time the band was originally called Starfish. A group of friends that they had were also in a band at the time, and that band had the name Coldplay. This name was taken from a poetry book entitled Child's Reflection, Coldplay. After the band decided to change their name, the band we know today as Coldplay asked if they could now use it. Imagine how confusing this would be today with the world of streaming. The name Foo Fighters was originally used by Dave Grohl to stay anonymous and release the recordings he was working on after Nirvana disbanded following Kurt Cobain's death. The term Foo Fighters is actually a term for unidentified flying objects that were used in World War II. Being Foo Fighters, he hoped that the people that would hear the tapes would assume it was from a band rather than it just being from him, which it was at the time. Some bands get their names from things that they see in the environment around them. A good example of this would be American band Fountains of Wayne and British band Shed 7. Both of their names are very literal, with Fountains of Wayne being the name of the garden ornament store in Wayne, New Jersey, and Shed 7 found the inspiration for their name of the band whilst on a train to York. As the train was approaching York Station, there was a shed next to the tracks that simply read Shed 7. Some bands will find their inspiration for their name with people being confused and mispronouncing the name of the actual band. This happened with Two Door Cinema Club, which is named after the Tudor cinema of the band's hometown. But because of it being mispronounced, it got changed to Two Door Cinema Club. The band Foster the People also settled on a new name after a series of mispronunciations. The band originally was called Foster and the People, named after the band's frontman Mark Foster, and the rest of the band being the People. However, it was repeatedly misheard as Foster the People, so that's what the band went with instead. Foster the People are not the only band to have dropped words from their name. The Cure have also done it, originally going by Easy Cure. However, frontman Robert Smith said it was too hipsterish and American West Coast sounding, so they dropped the Easy and added the The. There are 1,000,001 different ways to name a band, so I hope going through some of these was interesting. Thanks for watching.